While I think there will be some uncertainty ahead, I should emphasize that currently we are not in a crisis, nor are we in a recession.
Among countries in Asia, while those for Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Sri Lanka were reduced, the tariffs for Brunei, Japan, Malaysia and the Philippines were raised. This will likely prolong the uncertainty and volatility and challenges for the economies around the world. For Singapore, we continue to be subject to a 10% baseline tariff. I had previously mentioned that the US had offered potential tariff concessions on our pharmaceutical exports to the US. We are in discussions with our counterparts from the Department of Commerce to better understand their expectations and to explore practical and implementable approach for our companies. I will also be traveling to the US later this month to meet with my counterparts in the administration, as well as to meet with the business representatives and other personalities. On the whole, businesses have been preparing to adjust to the new tariff realities. Some have taken advantage of the ongoing pause in the reciprocal tariffs to front-load their exports to the US, and as a result, our economy is likely to hold up relatively well in the first half of this year. However, given the expectation of higher tariffs going forward, as well as the diminishing front-loading effect, we will likely see slower economic growth over the next 6 to 12 months. We will introduce a new grant scheme to help companies with operations in overseas markets defray the advisory costs in areas such as FTA and trade compliance issues, legal and contractual matters, and supply chain and market diversification.
Since the U.S. tariff measures were imposed, affected companies report deferral in future orders, order cancellation, and increased landed costs that render certain export unviable. Businesses are also thinking harder on making sure that their supply chain are more flexible and resilient, even if they are not making specific bets on individual trade corridors. There's increased attention to rules of origin, custom valuation, and use of first sale rule mechanism, especially to preserve preferential market access beyond the U.S. We believe that this grant will be useful in helping our businesses with their first step in restructuring their business operation and enable them to take more decisive action in seizing opportunities amid this new tariff environment.
We will be introducing a new business adaptation grant that will support businesses to review their existing overseas footprint in the light of this new tariff environment. Businesses who export to and or have operations in overseas market and are impacted by the tariffs will be able to tap on this business adaptation grant to assess the tariff impact and obtain advisory on supply chain optimization. Businesses with local or overseas manufacturing operations will also receive support for their reconfiguration needs, which includes logistics and inventory holding costs. This grant will be available by October this year and for a time-bound period of 2 years. The SMEs, we will be more generous in terms of allocation of the grant itself, because SMEs actually account for about 2/3 of our workforce in Singapore. So everything that we tie back, not just for our own economic growth, but it also has to tie back to our workforce. Because if SMEs hire 2/3 of our workforce, significant proportion of them are Singaporeans. What we intend to do is we intend to cap the business adaptation grant to up to 100,000 Singapore dollars. We will allocate a higher proportion of co-funding to SMEs. The non-SMEs, the MNCs and so on, would have a lower quantum. While I think there will be some uncertainty ahead, I should emphasize that currently we are not in a crisis, nor are we in a recession. The labour market has generally remained resilient. There are still more job vacancies than job seekers, with 1.64 vacancies per unemployed person as of March 2025. One segment that we have heard concerns about is fresh graduates who may face anxieties starting their careers in these turbulent times. We understand their anxieties, but we want them to be assured that there is support available. I would really appeal to graduates and parents to stay calm. We do see some silver lining in the data so far. Employment rates of the 2025 graduating cohort in June this year were comparable. In fact, they are slightly higher than they were in the same time last year. Based on a very preliminary MOM study, employment rates as at June 2025 is 51.9%. They are slightly higher than at June 2024, which was at 47.9%. So there's a 4% higher rate for the 2025 and 2024 graduating cohorts respectively. To our 2025 graduates, it is still early in your job search. We encourage everyone to keep an open mind to different opportunities in their job searches. Rest assured, the government, our tripartite partners, will continue to support you and walk every step with you.
One group that we are paying closer attention to is our young job seekers entering the labor market, especially during this time of global uncertainty. They are anxious, and I understand their anxiety. Even when jobs are available, many employers still prefer candidates with prior industry experience. This puts first-time job seekers at a disadvantage, somewhat of a dilemma, creating a tough cycle, as they need a job to gain experience, but need experience to get their first job. So we do encourage our young workers, our youth, to keep an open mind. Consider all the different possibilities and the job offers available. Even when they may not feel that the job checks every box, but these jobs can open the first doors to experience, networks, and potentially new directions at a very young age. NTUC will strengthen our support for youth transiting from the schoolhouse to work. Through the NTUC Youth Excel program, we offer job search skills training, networking opportunities, learning journeys to companies, and industry mentorship programs that provide tailored guidance from professionals with real-world experience. And since 2017, some 12,000 youths have benefited from these initiatives, and we will attempt to scale this up to serve the youth better.